Hi, everyone. Again, it's Amy Major with Spirit Rescue Talk. I have Bryan Whatley as my guest today. I'm really excited to have him on. He's actually been on my friends list for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, if not longer. And I've seen his paranormal journey, and I really wanted to have him on the show today. And I'm going to introduce him in a second. I'm going to have him tell you about his stories, his work, his spiritual life. And I think it's something that we're all going to learn a lot from. So hi, Bryan, how you doing?
Hey, Amy, it's so great to be here.
I know you've been on my friends list for like years at this point because I have a lot of paranormal friends and I never really get a chance to really talk to them. But I'm like, you know what? I got to reach out to Bryan. I got to, he has such great energy and I know he's got a lot of wisdom, and Spirit's like, do it. So I'm like, okay, so tell everyone just a little bit about you so everyone can know how awesome you are like I do.
You're gonna make me blush. Um, so I started off in the paranormal from since I was a small child. It's been part of my life ever since. I get it all from my father's side. As a second medium empath, but I really try to focus on the tech side because that's where my educational collegiate training is in computer science, computer engineering. So what I try to do is study energy and forces that I can find a possible solution to. So I've done research on a lot of psychic mediums. I speak at conferences all over the Southeast and doing shows and done some TV stuff and some movies and things like that. I'm director of and owner of Ghost Hunters of the South, which we're a TAPS family. And so we've been in that for, I guess, about 10 years, I guess, since SATS actually started. And then investigations wise, we do almost everything. I've been in some very interesting places. Some places I can talk about, and some places I can't because I had to sign an NDA on. And so, as you know, I'm sure of that, people just want answers, but they don't want it to be told, right? So to make them feel better, things like that. And so, kind of like what you do with your spirit rescue is helping people cross over, and that's I love that, and that's one of my big things too is trying to help spirits on the side, whether they're reaching out to family members and or they're just, they don't know how to get through or anything. And so I'll be out at restaurants or whatever, and somebody will walk in and they'll come up, I'll get a spirit come up, and I'll just have to walk in and start talking to them. I say, I'm sorry, but do you have a roll? And then they're like, yes, and they start going into it. And if it happens tonight, then I get real emotional. So if I start crying, that's just me. That's just my emotions coming out. But just the energy coming from it. So, but
well, like I said, they keep messing with your sound. I was like, let you all know that I was talking with Bryan for a little while, and he started having all these spirits pop up behind you, and they keep messing with the sound. And I'm like telling spirits, go away. We're working here. And they just keep popping up. So they just want to be part of the show.
Absolutely. They and that's why I was going to warn you before you said that, but you already said it. I was like, if somebody shows up behind me or around me, then it just happens. And whenever I speak at conferences or travel to different places, teach classes or whatever it is, something always winds up happening. And so if something falls off the shelf over here, then just
lovely.
I love
it. Bring it on, Bryan. Bring it on. No, it's a lot of fun because how do you get people to understand that this world exists without having them go through the same experience? It's like telling someone, air is there, but if they don't see it, if they don't understand that they're breathing air, how do they know? Unless they're like, oh, okay, I'm breathing, my lungs are breathing in the air. It's like with the spirit energy, they're invisible to most people that don't have clairvoyance. So how can people really pick up on the idea that they may have a spirit around them?
So actually, that's an awesome question. I love that question. And one of the several of the ways that I try to tell people and how spirit is communicating with them is to follow their own senses. And so, for example, a lot of people are drawn into this profession or into a profession that has to do with a spiritual side or a strong empathic side that they have. So for example, I used to be in the military. I was a military police officer, and police officers, my brother was a police officer. And so police officers, when they pull over somebody and they get to a car, they get this crazy gut feeling, something's going on. And, they're like, man, I got to trust my gut, and so they're picking up the sense, they're picking up the energies, things like that. Mothers, or they could be 100 miles away, their kids are off to college, and they're like, something's not right with my kid, and they'll pick up the phone call and they're like, mom, blah, 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 and it's that mother's intuition, right? And so people trying to learn and understand these different feelings that they're having. And I work with a lot of people who, I guess the common term now is called awakening, being awoke, right? And so people are really coming into the light and sense nowadays versus many years ago, because it's more mainstream now. And so now they're expansion. So I work with a lot of people who are going through that awoken phase. Same thing with having people who don't really necessarily have a gut feeling or intuition, but they will sense a cold draft, or they'll sense hair standing up on the back of their neck, or a light touch, like they just walked through a cobweb, things like that. And I always ask them, well, did you feel afraid or did you feel love? Right? So two major emotions in this world is hate and love, right? And most of them, they're like, you know what? I really felt at peace. I really felt love. And I said, well, that's a great sign. You should go with that. And so, and I don't have them right when I'm trying to go to sleep. They'll sit on my bed and, or make something. I'm like, look, I'm trying to go to sleep. Either come out and say what you want to say so I can go to sleep, or, just sit there and just, I'm going to sleep. But with having people trying to understand that, especially if they have a strong religious background here in the South, this is Southern Baptist, some Catholicism and all kinds of other groups, but it's kind of taboo. And I think it's kind of that way across. It's not as taboo as it was, but there's some people that there's no way I could talk to my priest about this. There's no way I could talk to my, my reverend about this, and I actually work with a lot of churches. And and then somebody will say, hey, I think you need to talk to my friend Bryan Whatley. Go find him on Facebook and stuff like that. I think he can help you. And so I just started working with people like that. And it's very interesting. And the biggest thing, again, going back to that, is about love and hate. Do you feel love present whenever you're experiencing something? And if you feel something different, then kind of move away from it. So,
wow. Yeah. I have a few students of mine that actually live in the South, and they tell me that it's sometimes difficult to be able to be out in the open and express their spirituality, because it's a little tight knit with religion. Have you experienced anything, or how do you handle living? Because you said you lived in the South. How is being a spiritual person, a medium? How do you handle being in the South with all of that kind of, and I don't want to say restriction, but it does feel a little restriction, because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings and say, I don't believe what you believe, or I think something a little different. And you certainly don't want to be burned at the stake, that's for sure. So what's the experience like for living down there?
It's interesting. At first, there was an actual place that I worked for a long time as a senior software engineering manager, and I was able to keep it under wraps because it was a major software company, and then somebody saw my radio show, and then somebody saw something else I did, and then it was all out. And then where I work now, I was kind of keeping it under wraps from the business perspective of it, from the company perspective of it. And then somebody saw me on TV, and then it spread around. And then somebody saw me on a poster board. They're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it!" And I'm like, oh, "Okay, yeah." So now I just don't care. So I'm just like, yes, that is what I do on the side, on my day job and everything else. I like to stay on side, but I can't really have a side in the spiritual world. It's always happening, and so it's how you reverse it, interact with it, and stuff like that. And the craziest thing is that most people, they just really want to talk to you, so they find out more stuff, and they'll come up with some stories, and they're like, "You would not believe what happened at my house." And I'm like, "No, trust me, I would believe it. I'm the person you want to talk to, who's going to believe it." And so they'll pull them to the side or whatever and talk to me. And
oh, they must have fun with you. telling all the stories that they have. And I've heard a lot of stories, and a lot of people have come to me. It's difficult because I'm half Jewish, and growing up my dad didn't believe in the afterlife. So a little 5-year-old kid, I'm arguing with him and yelling at him, there is a God, there is the afterlife. And I know how difficult it is to be able to grow up and have an environment, a community around you that doesn't quite understand. So you kind of feel like, what can I say? What can I not say? And a lot of people watching, they kind of feel that as way too. They're like, I don't feel like I have anyone to talk to. How did you reach out and connect to a few people that are like-minded, so you kind of felt like you had that community?
Well, nowadays, with having such popular social media networks such as Facebook, you can do all kinds of groups that are on there. A lot of hashtags, and Instagram, things like that. You can get on, Spirit Talk, on TikTok, things like that. And then eventually, like I said, people will say, hey, I think I need you to talk to my friend, Bryan Whatley. Yeah, I think you need to contact them. And so they'll either find me on Facebook or social media or something like that. And we start becoming friends, and they just kind of open up. And I think that's really one of the biggest ways. And then sometimes people will just, and I'm sure you're very well aware of this, complete strangers will walk up to me in stores and just open up their whole life story. And they'll go, I can't believe I've been sitting here talking to you for 30 minutes and I don't even know you. And I just told you my whole life. And I'm like, okay, trust
Give
me.
it an hour, more like an hour.
And so, or at restaurants, I'll have somebody, a spirit come forward, and it's somebody eating, or walking to the restaurant. I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, here we go. And so, and I just kind of have to say, I hope you don't mind me saying this. And I will just tell them, and then like you said, for the next hour, we're sitting and discussing something that happened. And so one of the last ones that happened, I was eating Chinese, and a little girl, not a little girl, a young woman in her 20s. I'm 52, so when I say little girl, that's little to me.
20s, yeah, I could call them young too. Let's go.
So her dad came across, and then I started describing a lot of things about her dad, and it was the day before Father's Day. And so I told her, I said, listen, he's showing me signs of this. So whenever tomorrow for Father's Day, because he was in the military, and I picked up that he drank a lot of coffee, like a lot of military people do. I said, but he does this cut thing, this salute thing. I said, so whenever you're drinking coffee tomorrow, just kind of raise it up, like you're giving him a salute, and say thanks, Dad, or whatever, and he'll be, I'm starting to get goosebumps. So and she was so thankful. She was like, oh my goodness, he had obviously passed away, and she didn't want to get a good closing, and so she really had a good experience with that. So I don't know, it's just interesting on how
It
all
is.
avenues of people come about, and I will never turn anybody away that wants to talk about something like that, or out in the open or whatever. And I actually carry a bag that says "Go Sounders Love the South." It's my what in the military is called a bug out bag. And so I keep different things in there. And sometimes, I'm at the gym or whatever, people will see it, and I'll say, hey, do you want to talk to you for a second? Or they'll recognize me from TV or something. And they'll say, hey, can you talk for a second? Come off to the side. And I'm like, absolutely. And they always go, believe this. And I'll say, oh, trust me, I'm the person that's going to believe it. So it's fun. It's interesting. It's exciting. It's scary. It's loving. It's all those things put together. So yeah.
No, have you always been a medium, or did anything in particular happen in your life that kind of sparked it and got it to start?
Well, I like to say a long time ago. So my aunts and cousins and things, they were all part of it. And their houses were always haunted, and every house that I've lived in, somebody's either died or it's been haunted or something. Somehow or another, there's always been happenings that goes around. And I guess it wasn't really until my 20s when things started really popping for me. And this is before the age of the internet. And so trying to find information, besides going to the library and buying books and things like that from Books A Million, it was a lot more difficult back then. And so I relied on my family a lot. Some of my great cousins were very strong mediums, and they would talk to me, and they'd come to the side or whatever else and explain to me what was happening. And so then after that, then I started getting more and more and more into it. And then kind of in my 30s is when it just boom, just blossomed, and just like everything just started coming from every little which way. It was just, it was amazing. So it was, I guess you could say that was my awakening period to really who I was and what I was supposed to do, and how I can help people and living and moved on.
Wow. Do you do messages for other people, like sitting down and doing mediumship messages, or is it mostly just the paranormal work?
Um, yes, at times. So if are you talking about just giving readings?
Yeah.
Every now and then. I try not to do them spontaneously, like somebody will come up and or they'll say, "Hey, give me a reading real quick."
Mm,
I have to kind of be in my center, in my zone, kind of thing like that. And sometimes it'll just boom, 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 and pop. And so I like to kind of play it by ear. I like to just kind of like let life happen, let spirit happen, and let the energy flow through. So whenever people ask me for readings, and I have done them quite a bit. I was actually working at a flea market, helping some people out, getting a shop up and running and things like that. And then people started finding out I was there, and so they started coming and and seeing me, and I would give them like these free readings. And so I'd sit there and talk to them for 5 or 10 minutes and say,
mm,
"Well, this is what I feel. This is what I believe." And that some people would just start crying. They're like, "Oh my God, you're so right. That's so on." And then next thing I know, I'd see them actually, and I say, "Well, this is something you should do. Try this at home, and let me know how it works out." And the next week they'd be back. They drive from Florida. I live in Mobile, Alabama, so they drive from Pensacola, Florida, or drive from Mississippi or somewhere else. And they're like, "Okay, so I wanted to get back with you and talk to you about it." And then they wind up bringing their family members. This is
mm.
this is not, and they're like, "Oh, you're the person that she told us all about." And so, and then every now and then I'll give them readings, but I don't necessarily have a shop where I just sit down, or I used to have a radio show and things like that, but I don't really give readings just to give them. I give them if spirit really wants me to give them.
Mm. It isn't easy because when you become a professional medium, like I did for 15 years, it's like reading after reading after reading. After a while, your crown chakra is like, oh, you
Yeah,
just can't do it anymore. And people are like, give me another one. And after you've worked for like 10 hours, you're like, uh-uh,
it's
you're like, you can't do it. You
so
have to be in the moment sometimes to really
yeah,
connect.
and it is so draining. People
It
don't
is.
understand how much energy it takes out of you to do something like that. And after a while, if you don't recenter yourself or ground yourself, like walking barefoot in the grass, kind of things like that, getting out in the sun, filling my hours, and then just resetting. And so
Mhm.
sometimes I'll just lay out under the moonlight, in a lawn chair or whatever, just to reset, reground, reset, refocus. And I think that's really important because a lot of people don't understand that, again, spirit is energy, and whenever they're coming through you, they're taking part of that energy, but it's okay because you're trying to give a really positive message to them. But after a
Right.
while, it does drain you, and
Hmm.
it you really down if you don't pay attention to it. So
Yeah. I was just teaching my students about the psychic hangover, and they're like, what's that? I'm like, you'll find out one day.
yeah. So certainly, oh,
But doing the investigations or working with earthbound spirits, I find I could do that for hours and hours and hours. Maybe they're just more on my vibe because we all carry certain vibrational frequencies that align to certain layers in the astral world. And my vibe is spirits, earthbound spirits and ghosts. And then of course the lower world too.
right,
Found that out the hard way.
yeah.
Now, when you're doing like paranormal investigations, what's your real role in that? What's your initiative?
So when I'm doing investigations, I actually try to keep it as technical as possible. And the reason why I say that, having a science background, I always give a report back to the client wherever I'm working, and I have to give them something that they can kind of understand. And so we'll do EMF readings, we'll do temperature readings, we'll do all the baselines and stuff like that, and then I'll explain to them what it is. And then after we get finished with all that, then I'll probably come up and say, "Now let me tell you this," and I'll show them videos and pictures or EVPs or whatever it is that we have, and I'll say, "Well, let me tell you this. This is something else that we determined." But one of the shows I worked on, several shows, it was always me as a scientist, and then working with a psychic medium on the side. And
Hmm.
so having their abilities, where I try to focus on not my psychic abilities or my empathic ability, but the science part of it. And so that's where investigation wise, I really try to stay focused on that. So,
Well, it's really important to be able to have that scientific background, eliminate all reasonable doubt
yes.
first, especially when you're doing investigations. You have so many spirits jumping in right now. Like, obviously people are calling you in because they want to know, is this really a spirit or is this just kind of in our mind type of thing? And being able to investigate on a scientific, earthly matter to say, well, it might be a little too much EMF coming from your wires. You may have some energy coming. If you have dowsing rods, bring in some energy. You may have some things coming up like from the ground. There could be many different energetic disturbances with homes. Whenever I do home clearing work, I found a lot of residual energy that a lot of people will pick up on as spiritual activity, but instead it's just a residual imprint of anything that really occurred there, and it's really thick. You walk into and you start reading all the energy, and you start, this happened here, that happened there was a door there, and and the homeowners are like, oh, and they're just wild and crazy and like, how do you know all this? And they're like, but you don't have a ghost. And they're like, what? So, but when there is a spirit there and you do sense them and you have the medium connect to them, what do you guys have any time or chance to be able to help that spirit cross over? Do you find most are willing to go, or do you find most are kind of like, no, I ain't leaving, I'm good, I'm sticking around?
Okay, so a couple of examples, and the answer is yes to all of that. The from the scientific side, from the engineering side, I actually try to build my own equipment to produce new technologies through the paranormal, and then I would just give it out to people, whoever wanted. But there are times that I've been in $1 million homes and talking about the energy of the home, and they're like, I swear that this is happening, and I will, once I do my baseline readings, I'll wind up finding out that they have this old clock radio that's kicking off, 60 hertz or 6 milligauss of EMF, and I'll tell them, you just have to move the radio. You're sleeping too close to it because you are actually affected by EMF. And or their headboards right outside the sub panel, or the outside panel of the house, and it was, believe it or not, I said, so if you just move your bed over this side, you won't experience the things, because people really are affected by EMF. And so that's where those kind of things come in. And I've even had to tell in some of these homes, some of the mansions, they built 300 years old, so much history that's around this place. Oh my goodness. If you ever get a chance to visit here, I would love to show anybody around. Include yourself. If you ever get a chance to come, then I'd love to show you around, because it's so rich in nature and culture here. But with having all these different spirits come and go, I kind of look at it to, what does the spirit want? I mean, who am I really to say you can't stay here unless it's causing something bad, right? But if the homeowner or the business owner or the school, the hospital, whichever it is, decides that they're okay with what's happening, they just wanted an answer, and there's not really need to say for it to leave, and if and a lot of times they're like, I think I would kind of miss them if they did cross over. And I'm like, well, it's really up to the spirit. If they do, then it's great. Now, there was a place, this is, oh my goodness, there was a place up in Tennessee we were working. It wasn't Tennessee, it was on the borderline of Tennessee. And this guy who had owned this house, he had just gotten out of prison, some kind of bad charge or something, murder or something, I don't know, but really nice guy. I mean, he really was. Him and his daughter was living there. And he had told us that there was something dark in his house. And I was also working with some Apache Indians, and they said, oh yeah, that house has some very evil stuff in it. And he had told me, he said he had saw something one time, and he unloaded his 9mm at this entity. And I was like, okay, cool, that's interesting. And so we go in, and he grabs his daughter and just got out. And so whenever we went to the house, there's some food on the table, there was still, everything. They literally, get out, they got out. And so as we got back to the back bedroom, I looked up on the wall, and you could see the bullet holes where he had literally shot at something. And so And as we were recording this, I was having all kinds of technical difficulties going on. I didn't realize it at the time because I was working with another medium, and she had sensed that that entity had wanted to cross over. And so as we're going through all this stuff, the darkness and everything, the heaviness that was happening in the house was actually just a spirit that wanted to, get crossed over, get moved on, and she was able to move it on. And I have it all on video, and I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And we get back to her house, and we're going over that audio video stuff, and then everything was gone. There's no video, nothing. There was a little bit of audio of my voice, and I've been in a lot of places. I've fought in combat, I've skydived, I've mountain climbed, I've built bombs, all that stuff like that. So I like adrenaline junkie. There's not too much that I'm really afraid of, and my voice on the recording sounded like I was terrified. It was like to me, I felt nice and calm. But the voice on the recording, that was all we had. And she actually looked at me and she's like, "Were you scared, Bryan? You don't get scared of anything." I was like, "I didn't feel scared. I didn't realize I was, but the way it came back was alarming to me. It was alerting to me." So I was like, okay, I need to be a little bit more protective. But it was also interesting on how they controlled my equipment and what they wanted to hear, what they wanted me to hear, and what they wanted us to see, and everything else. So that was, and we told the guy, got it cleared over, and he moved back in with his daughter and everything else. And everything.
Good.
So,
I last time I checked, bullets don't work on ghosts, but when you're in that moment of panic and you're like, "Get the gun, let me just do what I need to do," and Spirit's like, "Sure, that's not gonna work." You need to call in someone like you or me to come in and find out what's really happening with these spirits. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are afraid when it comes to paranormal activity, earthbound spirits. But I always tell people, pay attention to how you feel. Are you afraid or do you feel threatened? There's a very distinct difference between the two emotions. You'll know if you feel threatened. You're going to feel like this energetic attack towards you. Or do you just feel afraid because it's something dark, spooky, scary, something you're not aware of? You don't know what this is, and it's in your home. It's right there in your face. A lot of people get very afraid by that. They get very intimidated by that energy. And I try to counsel and teach people all over the world to kind of say, stand in your power, own your space. This is your sacred space. You don't need to shoot them. You just need to say, "Hey, my space, there's the door." But at the same time, I'm hearing you. So your spirit, they're like, compassion and love is the great way to shift the vibration right away, especially when there's space and you feel that intimidation. Spirit's like, "Who are you? You're in my space." And you're like, "No, you're in my space." And so you send them a little bit of love. And I feel like they really get that energetic stimulation to kind of shift them out of that fear, resentment, anger, whatever it is they're attached to in that earthbound state. And I think it really does help quite a bit. I keep getting the message for you that you're supposed to stand in your power a little bit more and do more mediumship instead of more technical stuff. Just saying, it's just the message I'm getting.
First person who said that. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, you need to claim your power, because you have, like I said, you had all those spirits standing behind you when we first got started, and they're kind of still there, but they're kind of like hanging over here now.
Yeah, that's why I said I was getting goosebumps. I was like, okay, yeah.
They really want you to be able to own your ability. It's getting stronger, and start looking and teaching, like what I do, teach a lot of students. There's a lot of people in your area that they have a hard place to go to. They don't know where to go. What's the resource? I always send people to spiritualist churches, because they're all throughout the world, or any type of like universalist church, or anywhere where they're more open to mediumship activity. And then of course the online as well.
Yes.
Online presence to be able to educate people. What type of projects are you thinking about doing in the future, other than getting more energy out there, doing more mediumship work? I know you're going to do it, but do you have any ideas for what your future looks like with your work?
From the technical side?
Any side, spirituality wise.
So I do have a couple of projects lined up, and I've gone over some of the drafts with some friends of mine, and they said, if you built that, I would, um, I'd pay for 10 of them right now. And so, like, I've built SLS cameras and my own EMF detectors, and all kinds of what a lot of people consider REM pods, things like that. But I kind of like trying to put my own scientific background on energy and how much I've worked with physics and stuff like that
Mm.
towards the work. The What I like to do is build something to where people, if they wanted it, they could afford it.
Mm.
Or if they wanted to build it, then I'd give them the plans to build it, as long as they didn't try to make a profit off of it, right? So,
Mm.
because I believe in giving back to the community, and I don't want somebody else to go around and say, "Oh, I just made all this money," and they have no terms of giving it back. They don't have that same sense of community belongings and stuff. So, um, um, it's how can I say this? It's an electronic Ouija board is one of them.
Mm.
So I work with a lot of, I make Ouija boards. I do a lot of work with it, stuff like that. But it's using a lot of the devices that are in different parts. And I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's using a lot of the different electronic devices and putting them into a form of a Ouija board.
Mm.
And so a lot of people think they're just immediately scared of it, but
Oh,
it's just another
just a tool.
it's another tool. That's exactly it. It's
Mhm.
another medium on how to connect to. So whether you're in a seance, whether you're using a pendulum, whether you're using just an EMF detector talking, whatever, those are all forms of communication. And so one of the most common ways of communicating that people recognize is the board. And so
Mhm.
I have some plans to develop. I have several 3D printers. I've already drawn out the layouts of it. I've already done the electronic work, stuff like that. In terms of
Yeah.
design, I
Yeah.
just I just need to find time to finish it. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember, gosh, how long ago? 10 years ago now. I thought about the same concept because I actually know a lot of electronic engineers. And I started thinking, oh, why don't we have an electronic Ouija board? And we can, through thermal sensors and through heat control and cooling, the pads would have thermal sensors on them, and the spirit could change their, going up higher, the heat or the cooling, and they would hit letters to
yeah,
communicate with you, and then would come up in a screen. And I'm just like, this is a really great idea. And I said, can you guys do it? And they're like, no. They're like, we can't. They didn't know how to do it. So I'm like, great idea. But like, I have a lot of great ideas, but I'm just like, I have no idea to implement them at all. If you can do anything like that, I know it would be great. It would be another way for spirits to be able to communicate with us. Because I have to say, the Ouija board with the plantlet, it can be manipulated by subconscious thoughts. It can be manipulated by you moving around. So being able to communicate with spirits without us physically being active, but just seeing like maybe a computer screen with spirits saying, hi, how you doing? I'm watching
yeah,
type of thing, that would be really great to have. And I think it's our future. I
yeah.
do.
And I think again, the concept is to keep it cost affordable for a lot of
Yeah.
people, because if you're in this, what I like to call hobby, it's not really a hobby, but a lot of people term it as hobby. It's an
Mm.
expensive hobby to buy all the equipment that you need, all the video cameras, all the thermal, all the detectors and everything else that you could possibly use from the tech side of it, versus just your own physical body, which is the most expensive equipment you could ever own, is your own body,
Mhm.
your own senses. And so I
Right.
always think go with that first. But for people who want to venture into it, then it's to me, it's all about being cost affordable. And I always tell people, if you have a great idea or whatever, I can help you take it to production, then let me know, and I'll help as much as I possibly can. So
Mm. No, I
um,
know a lot of people like, how do we protect ourselves using that type of equipment? Do you have any particular style of protection? And there are mediums out there, but they all think you don't need protection. You don't need a gatekeeper. Everything's in the light. I'm like, sure it is.
yeah,
I'm sure you know better that not everything's in the light, especially when it comes to the earthbound realm. And then, of course, things lower than the earthbound realm. What's your form of protection? What's your go-to to make sure you're always staying in a protective place?
That's a perfect question. I love that. So as a metaphysicalist myself, I believe in surrounding yourself in white light. That's one of the first things. The other one of the first things I like to happen to first is whatever your religion is, whether you're Catholic, whether you're Baptist, whether you're whatever, just believe in that. Bring that source together and everything else, and call upon angels that for your religion, for how that works for you. Believe in that and have that as your backup. And then for me, I always like focusing my center, surrounding myself with white light. And I do a lot of chakra training and things like that, and help people to learn how to meditate and focus that surrounding energy of white light around them in a 360 bubble. And I always try to tell people, before you do anything, make sure you protect yourself first. Don't go into any place or do anything willy-nilly without believing in your beliefs and having a form of protection. Now, like behind me, I've got bottles of holy water, and I've got rose crucifix and rosary beads and all kinds of stuff. So it's the clients that I'm working with is the tools that I'll take with them, or I'll take and sometimes give to them. And it's always in, you said this earlier, get into your power, right? And so when you get somebody to empower themselves, believe in themselves and what they can do, and give them confidence for that, that's a feel-good moment. Because sometimes people are just really, really scared in their house. They don't know. I've had, like I said, people moved out of their house and they called me at midnight and like, my dog just got thrown across the room. What, I get your number. What can I do? And I would get up out of bed and go help them or whatever. But it gets back to, empowering yourself or finding a way to help empower others. And so, like I said, don't do anything without some kind of protection.
Exactly, for sure. I know there's a lot of people that want to feel self-empowered, and they research and they connect and they find mentors and teachers. And I'm sure maybe some people might be gravitating towards you. And if they are, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect and find you if they have any questions, or they just love your vibe and they want to connect with you?
I like the way you say vibe, because I believe in vibration. So I'm always like, I'm vibrating here, you're vibrating up here. We need to figure out how we can vibe together, right? So you keep saying vibe, and I love that, because that's one of my common terms. Like, let's vibe.
Right.
So one of the biggest things nowadays is because of social media is just look me up on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Bryan Whatley, and then of course my own personal profile. And I've got some Instagram and TikToks and things like that. My website, I wound up losing all kinds of stuff. How websites come and go, but so don't necessarily rely on that. But the social media is the best way. And just reach out to me on Facebook. Say, hey, I saw you on Amy's show, or my friends said I should reach out to you. And that's actually how a lot of people do. They'll just send a message on Facebook Messenger, and they'll say, can we talk? And absolutely, we can talk. So,
well, hopefully we will be talking again sometime in the future, and send some ghosts your way, maybe. And hopefully you can connect to them.
I can get room somewhere.
Go to Bryan, not me. I'm busy right now. I'm busy writing. Exactly. I'm always looking for my tribe to come and just take the work. So absolutely, I'd definitely love to connect again. And it was really great having you on as my guest and being able to talk. The spirit energy kind of died down a little bit over the last few minutes. Don't you sense it? Yeah, they're like, oh, they're done. They're not talking about us anymore. And I'm like, it's okay, Spirit. We love you anyway. It's all good.
Is there any particular one right now that you might see that would like to say something to somebody? Because sometimes it's not necessarily spirits for me, but it's spirits for audiences.
Yes, exactly.
It'll come through while we're doing this, and I say, hey, I know so-and-so is reaching or watching or going to watch this. And so is there anything that you see somebody out here from one of your audience?
You do. Well, like I said, you had the person in uniform standing behind you earlier, but now you have a woman standing on your left-hand side, my right-hand side. And it does feel like it is like a motherly energy that really wants to come in. She has lighter brown hair coming to about just below the shoulders, and it's a little on the wavy side. And she's going like this to her chest, and saying there was a chest issue with her passing. And then she also goes to her stomach as well, and saying it kind of started spreading throughout her body. She puts glasses on and then takes them off. So I feel like it's like she doesn't like her glasses on, even though she has to wear them anyway. She's like, shh, don't tell anybody type of thing. She has a little bit of a sass personality, likes to come with full force and likes to tell her, I'm in, everybody pay attention to me. She likes being sort of the authority around. I don't know if she's connected to you or just somebody who's watching, but she just keeps blowing kisses to everybody that's around. She loves the attention. She really, really does. So I don't know. I was asking her how old she was when she passed, and she said way too soon. She passed much earlier than she should have. Like she was expecting to be here a lot longer than she did. She is telling me it was illness based, not accident based with her passing. And it does, like, I feel like something that could have spread, or something that happened to one part of her body, and then all of a sudden it got worse and spread to another part of the body. She's not showing me where. She's like, doesn't like talking about her personal stuff, to be honest. She's just like, yeah, we don't need to talk about that right now. Let's just talk about how beautiful I am. Type of thing. She's got the hair, I know. But yeah, I do feel like she is connected to you, though. She kind of has this vibe that she's connected to you. And she keeps wanting to push you in the stomach like Pillsbury Doughboy.
I've been trying to lose weight, Mom. I'm trying to lose weight.
She kind of has this thing where she just loves poking you. Yeah. So, do you recognize her at all?
Be honest with you, my mother passed away with cancer.
Oh.
And so it could be her. So I'm not sure. But like I said, a lot of times spirits come through here with messages for other people other than you and I. So that's
well, she says you don't get enough messages. She just said you don't get enough love. She's like, you're always giving to all these other people. And she's like, you don't get enough. And she's rubbing your back, and she's like, no, you're getting it this time. So she's just like, she promises she'll step back. She makes sure there's no tears or anything, but she just adores you. She really does. You're her baby. You really don't. And she said, watch out for you. She said, you're just as feisty as she is. You know, so she's like, he looks like an angel, but really he's not. Yeah. Moms always know. They always know, and they have to, even from the spirit side, they always want to come and embarrass us. It's just one of those things that they do. So,
great.
She's great. She just stepped away all of a sudden, but she said, make sure you have time for you. Recharge your batteries, get what you need, be a little selfish. It's okay to be. It's okay to say no. She just like, that's her message. Let him know it's okay to say no.
I get told that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm always a yes person.
Don't be. Stand up, say, I ain't doing that. No. Pick your battle, choose your battles. You know that. You know that for sure. So yeah. But you got a great future ahead of you. Not that you haven't been doing this for a long time, but you're going to be here for a long time, and Spirit signed you up for a lot of work. So let's get prepared. So again, thank you so much for coming in and hanging with me and talking about spirits, because, you know, Spirit Rescue Talk, and that's what we do around here. So, and thank you to every one of you who did show up and watch. If you do want to connect to Bryan, please reach out, or just kind of like watch him all over Facebook, see his videos, his posts, everything that he's doing. No stalking though, that's not allowed. But feel free to reach out if you do want to connect with him. I'm sure there's a lot of things that he has to offer. And again, thank you for watching Spirit Rescue Talk. See you next time.